All right, so to the Facebook people, let me pull this. There we go. Zoom meeting back up. Got it. All right, Facebook Live people. I'm running an experiment with Monk right now. Monk, I gotta ask to join, right? Request to join.
Mm-hmm.
So we're running the live from Monk's Insta, and I'm running the Human Condition from my Facebook Live. Let's see. All right. You see me?
Yeah.
Hey, Monk. So I want to get a quick.
A lot of people that are watching this. Are you getting feedback from me?
I am.
I wonder. Oh, you went. Let me turn the speaker off on my phone.
That's what I gotta do.
What's happening, everybody on IG? We are streaming from 2 different platforms. So if I look away, I'm just looking at the other.
Can you hear me?
The other platform.
Can you hear me, Monk? I shut it off on.
What's your the Human Condition, right? The Human Condition.
Human Condition, yeah.
On Facebook, the Human Condition on Facebook.
I wonder if I. Can you hear me, Monk? Can you hear me? Hey, Monk, can you hear me? So the feedback is coming from 2 mics running.
I don't hear it on my end now.
You're good now?
Keep
Okay,
on.
then I think I'm good over here too.
Okay, yeah, I'm good here.
All right, cool. But you can't hear me though?
I can hear you.
Okay, I just want to
Turn the volume down on the on the
mine's all the way down now.
Human podcast. I mean the your podcast, and then I'm just using the Instagram.
Okay, so I turned the volume down on yours and it's the same way. So now I think we're good. All right, so for everybody who's new to Monk, this is his book. I'm gonna post a link on it. It's on the page anyway, but I highly recommend you get this book. It's I always talk about how Martin Luther King, when I was first exposed to him in 3rd grade, I think 2nd or 3rd grade, I knew who Jesus was. I didn't understand parables, and back then it was all organized religion for me. So I didn't know what the hell they were talking about, and I didn't know what Jesus was talking about. Like, why do you talk like that? But then when Martin Luther King, when I was exposed to him, I understood all of a sudden what Jesus was talking about in the parables when it came to unconditional love. Like, that made sense to me then. And this book simplified every spiritual tradition that I've ever come in. Basically, the golden rule, right? Just real simple concepts like do unto others as you'd have done to yourself, and things like that are simplified here in a way that I haven't seen done before in a long time. So like I said, the link's on the page. People can go get it, and it's available now. It's something that I hand out frequently. I try to have multiple copies, so when people are having trouble understanding the concepts of say Buddha, we'll just go get this, and this is real broke down into it's simplified, about as simplified as you can get. 80 pages. You don't have to get up you don't have to go grab the Quran. You don't have to go. You know what I mean? If you want to know in plain language what most of these spiritual traditions are speaking of, Monk breaks it down pretty effectively. So I just wanted to put that out there right off the rip. But the title I put on this today is Insanity, the New Normal, because me and you got to talking the other day, and it's real clear that insanity seems to be the new normal. Like, we've always heard killing in the name of religion, like killing in the name of God. How does that make any damn sense? But it continues to happen. Like, it hasn't stopped. And now because of the scare we just went through with COVID and this election cycle and everything like that, people have lost their damn minds. You know, it's almost like we've reverted to insanity as a means of not dealing with reality, because there is, I think we can solve some things, right, if we put the effort in. But to put that effort in and risk failing, I think it's become so scary to people that they'd rather just go back to an insane way of life. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I just think we're to a point where it's either choose to stay asleep or choose to wake up.
Right, and it's choice.
we've been floating around in the middle for so long. This has forced us to not choose a side, but choose what we're going to do with ourselves, in our spiritual growth, in our development. Are we gonna go backwards? Or are we gonna move forwards and really become the person we came here to be? And that's the question.
I think I'm giving you feedback on this right now. I'm trying to kill it.
Yeah, I hear a little bit.
Better? You can't hear me on yours now.
I can't hear you at all now.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
I've learned now I got to run 2 mics through the same feed, or else we'll get the feedback. But as long as nobody else is hearing it, we're good. Like, I can deal with it. Yeah.
So the insanity part is what we're dealing with right now, and in the part about how we are all separated. All these things are either going to bring you closer to who you are, or you're going to regress and go backwards. And I think the powers that be are trying to separate us in many different ways. It can be with this new vaxxer, anti-vaxxer thing. It could be the race thing, the religion thing. I mean, there's so many different ways to keep us small and to keep us in a fearful state, right? The fearful state is the worst state we can possibly be in, and it's easily controlled from this state. So what do? They put forward a bunch of fear-based narrative, and then if that's what you're looking for, it's going to ring true to you. And if it rings true to you, it's going to cause separation between you and whatever they're throwing out there, or whatever race that you have a problem with, or whatever, whoever's personal, their behavior. Like, what are they doing with their life? If it doesn't align with what you're doing in your life, you're going to start to create separation. And you, just like the blame that's going around everywhere right now, everybody's blaming everybody for everything.
Yeah.
It's not about blaming others. This is what they want us to do. They want, you want a bad guy. You see all this craziness and you want to blame it on somebody, instead of on the system that created this.
Well, and I'll take it a step further.
Go ahead.
Like, it's not that we want to blame. It's that you're programmed to blame. From at a very young age, we're egocentric, right? Which we have to be. And I think as soon as you step into this human body, you're dualistic by nature. I mean, because we're living in antithesis to our true nature, which is light. We're light beings. Even from a quantum physics perspective, we're light. We're subatomic particles. And now we're these quantum systems, and we've become stagnant in our true flow, which even by quantum physics standards, in that now we're this human body, right? So we live in antithesis to the fact that we're supposed to be traveling at the speed of light along with everything else, if that's a true metric, right? Then that can be broken too. But we're, wave particles, and then we get collapsed into these human bodies, and now everything that we experience is in antithesis to the fact that we should be in flow, right? We're not in flow. Once we collapse into these determined particles, now we have to battle against the fact that we're in this stagnant state. And then the 5 senses are part of that stagnant state. So the ego truly is the belief that these 5 senses are the absolute be all end all, and they're the truth. When we forget our oneness, that's where the separation comes from a very metaphysical standpoint. Like, our origins are somewhere other than we'll ever experience on this planet. So it's hard for us to separate from the illusion of separation, right? Because it's so natural to us. So when we come out, we're egocentric in that all of our needs are met by us crying. We cry, we get fed, we get, and then as you grow and you start to learn what it is to be a human being, and then to have compassion, to have empathy, to love, to not love, to hate, all these things we're taught. Most of the things are from an egocentric standpoint. That's not a fault of our parents or their parents. They had far less information than we have now. We're in this state of constant evolution, right, as human beings. So it's not even that we want to hate or to separate or to find scapegoats. It's that we're programmed to. So the immediate go-to to not feel pain is that they do different things. They must be the problem. You know what I mean? And we relegate to that.
You're absolutely 100% right. It can't be you that's creating the problem. It has to be somebody else that's creating the problem. But the problem is within you.
Yes.
That's what we understand.
Yeah, and we talked about, like, until I got to a point of I was devastated, right? I was going through this. I reached my spiritual bottom. There was nothing outside of the Hollywood drive towards fame and fortune. And I had success there, and I had to walk away from it because it was killing me. And I remember I got this one big opportunity. I had several, but there was one that took me from local celebrity, local whatever, to star immediately. And I walked away from this movie because it was selfish, because I knew I was going to kill myself, right? I hadn't been diagnosed with PTSD. I didn't know what these flashbacks were. And something in me said, that's the thing you work for your entire life, but it's not what you are. And I had to break away from that. I had to make a choice. And I had a son at this point, and I wasn't going to leave him without a father. So I walked away from the opportunity. You know what I mean? So what was the last thing you said?
I'm just listening to you. I was saying the problems is within ourselves.
So so I was broken down to my core, because everything I thought I was that label. I aspired my whole life to be an actor, writer, producer, mainly actor. And then the role came along of a lifetime, and I had to jump back inside myself and look at all these problems I was having. I would have these emotional flashbacks. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what I was battling, but I knew it wasn't right for my kid. And I had to go back to me, because I had blamed the world around me. Oh, well, my dad did this. Oh, well, this happened when I was a kid. Oh, I was raised in poverty. Oh, is this, that? Always blaming, right? Always blaming. And I was refusing, not intentionally, but refusing to look back at me, in myself, and because it was too painful. I was already suffering, right? And to go back into me, man, I got a lot of shit to fix. And subconsciously, your subconscious mind is powerful. It doesn't want you to suffer again. So it's trying to protect you from doing that work, when really it's not protecting you. It's not serving you anymore. I was out of the hood. Like, I was out of the poverty part. I got myself out. I was out of fighting every day. You know what I mean? For my belongings, and, for my pride and whatever. I wasn't doing that anymore, but my brain was protecting me that way. And I had to come back into myself and say, wait, maybe you're wrong. You know what I mean? And it was ketamine, quantum physics, the birth of my son, those three things combined. It was ketamine that broke down the walls, right? Put me into transcendental meditation, chemically induced transcendental meditation. And in that space, I was able to feel unconditional love. Once I felt it, I knew everything that I had experienced up until that point, which was separation, protection. I knew it was a lie. Like, I couldn't go back and say that it wasn't after I felt that oneness, that God, whatever you want to call it. Once I stepped into that space and felt that, there was no coming back from that, unless I wanted to deny that through alcohol, drugs, whatever compulsion, money, whatever. And once I felt it, it was all over. And then it became about, okay, well, what is my part in all of this, right? I feel angry about this. I don't like that this person's doing this, or this organization's doing this. How am I responsible for that? And it's not about blame. It's about, what is my part? And there's always a part. Almost always. I don't think I've ever found a point where I got angry about something where I couldn't come back to me and find a resolution within myself on how not to allow that into my life. You know what I mean? I know you know what I mean, but
yeah. You know what's a trip is when you really start to wake up, like when that process starts, then you can always go back and trace it back to yourself.
Yeah.
Everything that you're doing and why you were doing it starts to become clear. So it's only when you are fast asleep is everybody else to blame for your situations. And it doesn't matter how hard that you had it growing up. It doesn't matter. It's not your fault for the things that happened, but it's your responsibility going forward.
We're talking about, Oh, go ahead. Sorry. No, ironic concepts. You said something that was, so you said when you were blaming, you were fast asleep. And we're talking about ironies here, right? Killing in the name of God. But think of the woke generation and how much they blame. You know what I mean? You're not woke in terms of consciousness. You're very much asleep if you're sitting there pointing the finger and polarizing to one side that opts that you hate another, right? You're asleep. You ain't woke. There ain't no wokeness in that.
The more you start to wake up, and I believe I'm always going to be in the awakening process, awakening to more closer to the truth, more and more and more, right? But the more you wake up, the more that you can see that God in everyone, and you will have more understanding why they're doing the things they're doing, and not take it personal. Just look, you know that they are where they are right now, and it's like you were where you were at that time. So there's no blame for anybody. You don't blame anybody. You just understand this is what it is. But on a deeper level, you understand that at the deepest level, we are all from that same source. So if you blame somebody, you're blaming yourself. And that's what I don't think people realize. When you treat somebody a certain way, even with thoughts, because thinking is energy, thinking is power. When you think negative on somebody, or you think ill will on somebody, you're doing it to yourself. And when you start to wake up, you understand that you're doing it to yourself. So you're very conscious of the thoughts that you keep, right? And the energy that you keep. I hear it. I don't know what it is, but I hear it.
I can kill it right now. There it is.
Yes, you become very aware of negative thoughts that come through. You be very aware of judgmental thoughts that come through.
Yeah.
You check yourself. You're almost like the gatekeeper now. When something comes through, you ask the questions, why am I thinking like that? Why is that coming through like that? I need to do some investigation.
We talked about my cat the other day, and the issue that I had with so my cat was knocking a bottle of water down on the dresser, and turns out the kids hadn't filled her water in her dish. My gut response was to yell at the cat, "Whiskers, get down from there!" And I grabbed her and I threw her. She's a cat, but I didn't really think about maybe I threw her too far. You know what I mean? I didn't think anything because they land on their feet. Well, I have hardwood floors, and we were on the top floor. And when the cat hit, there was a thud when her feet hit the ground. And I noticed this thud, which I don't think I would have ever noticed in the past. Maybe even last year, but prior to growth for sure. I noticed the thud, and I looked at the cat. The cat was fine, right? But I wasn't, because I heard it, and I knew that I reacted out of anger to that cat who wasn't doing anything but asking for more water. And even if it was up there doing what a cat does, it's doing what a cat does. It's kind of like humans. Humans do what humans do. And when you grow out of your own humanness to a certain extent, you can look back at humans and say, like you said, with compassion, they haven't learned yet. You know what I mean? So you don't go beating them up, or you don't toss them and make them, that anger bothered me. It bothered me. And now that I'm where I am, I know that the space I'm entering into, we got this movement, we the people that we talked about, that's going to take compassion, because there's a lot for me to get angry with, right? We're being lied to, like you said. This two-party system, it's fascism disguised by the illusion of choice. It's meant to divide us. It always has. It's been effective. Vaccine or not vaccine, all this shit we get fed by the media and by the establishment, it's to separate, not to unify. And then they'll have these two sides that say, no, we just want to unify. No, you don't. It's two. How can you? You can't. There's no middle. There's no coming across the aisle. There's none of that. Never has been, never will be. So when I noticed that in my cat, I said, the universe was trying to speak to me. The cat wasn't hurt. I wasn't overtly aggressive, but that wasn't compassion. And I had to pay attention to it. And just somebody who's not in our space, they'll be like, oh, you're making a big deal out of nothing. Not really. Because what that tells me is, if I'm being confronted out in public in a way that I don't like, my internal makeup still allows me to act aggressively towards that as a means of protecting myself and shutting it down, right? Rather than allowing it to happen, which is what we're supposed to do, things happen in real time in the moment. We have to allow things to happen and react to them as they are, not as we'd like them to be. So it taught me something in the moment. Does it mean I'm fixed? No, no, but I recognize, I get it. I come back into myself and I say, I don't like how that felt. The way that I acted, I don't like how that felt. What can I do to change it in the future? And sometimes it's a cat that'll do that to you, you know?
Look, there's always signs and things for us out there if we pay attention. And that was one of those things. If you're paying attention, you can see it or catch it. If you're not gonna catch those things. And once we realize, if anything, I don't care if it's religion, I don't care what it was, if anything, I don't care what it is, I should say, if anything is causing you to not like another group because of the group that you're in, that's not God, or whatever you view God to be, right? That's not it. God is going to be unifying, whatever your version of God is. So if you're in a religion that says, I'm the only one and everybody else is going to get punished, you got to really look deeper into that religion. If you're with a group that hates another group simply because it's the opposition, or you think it's the opposition, you got to really look closer into that group. We all know when we're babies, before we're programmed, we all know that any baby will hang out with any baby before they understand language or they're programmed. Any baby will hang out with any baby. So how does it happen that when you become adults that one person hates another person? It's all programming. So once you realize that that's what you are, that's the only way you're going to change the program you're working with. If you don't realize you're a program, just like the Matrix, I didn't watch the Matrix till about 6 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, because I wasn't a big Keanu Reeves fan, but someone told me to go watch it. Someone told me to go watch it.
All right.
And it blew my mind. It
The
blew
Matrix?
because that's real. That's a documentary. That's not a movie.
Go ahead, sorry.
Are we good?
Yep.
So I watched that movie and it just made so much sense. You know, when you're plugged in, you don't even see. Yeah, you don't even see real life. Hey, what's up, y'all? We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, so we're streaming it on 2 different platforms. So be patient with us.
Yeah, we're testing this.
Talking about the insanity of things going on right now, and
I don't know what it did.
as individuals, if we really, as individuals, start to be who we came here to be, and really start the healing process, then
Going into this, Mike, let me.
yeah, go ahead. Then our situation on the planet will start to change. We need to become who we were as small children. We need to get back to that state. Are we good?
I think I got it.
Okay.
And so, but I heard everything you just said.
Okay.
And,
It's this simple though. It's this simple. You're born, you know what's up. Without language, you already know what's up, right?
mhm.
You are just a consciousness, right? But you don't know where you're at yet. You're looking around, things are strange. And then the people around you start to give you information. And then you start to understand information. And then you start to create your identity is starting to be created through situations. Go ahead.
So when your identity is created, this is where, for me, the deepest acts of empathy, sympathy, compassion can be experienced. It's so for that jihadist, right, that's in a cave in Iran or Iraq or wherever, somewhere in the Middle East, and they're chopping off the head of an innocent person in the name of God, right? That's easy to look at that behavior and it's evil, but for all intents and purposes, that's evil. That's now from the perspective of love. Mary Ann Williamson, for example, in her book Return to Love, which is based on Course in Miracles. You're familiar with Mary Ann, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would say that every act is a cry for love, and when you when you grow out of your faulty mechanisms, or you understand them, become consistently aware of them, then you start to look at that in other people and you say, well, they are just acting out for love. Now, it's reprehensible. The consequences are in order. You can't live that life. You can't live life that way. But you think about the kid. You know, this is one of the most poignant things I wrote, and it's for my book. It's not out yet, and it's hard to discuss without thinking about it. But I thought about that one time, and I thought, well, what about that kid's life? You know what I mean? Because you got to think about how they were conditioned. Number one, you got this country, the big bully, America, right? From their perspective, that's over there bombing them. They live in a perpetual state of fear, especially now when these wars have been active since the 60s, right? At least. And perpetual state of war through the military industrial complex. And they're consistently getting bombed. They have every right to hate us because they don't know any better. And their mom died, their dad, or whatever the case is. And now the way that they feel love and connection is through, there is evil out there. And this evil is telling them that, well, you'll be met by 72 virgins. Just do this thing. How does that conditioning get broke? You know what I mean? And we just have to realize, like the spiritual people, that it won't in some people, and that's their journey. You know what I mean? And then we can start getting into, you know, reincarnation or whatever happens after the fact. Do we continue on after this if we haven't reached God consciousness, Christ consciousness, nirvana, whatever you want to call it? How do we number one, how can we can't, I don't think we accept it. I think you accept it as what it is, but you have to deal with it for what it is and not want it to be different than what it is.
Here's the thing. Everybody, all the extremists, no matter what is extreme about you, it could be Christianity, it could be whatever the case may be, they all think they're doing the right thing 100%, right? Like they really believe they are doing the godly thing, even if it's chopping somebody's head off, even if it's shooting people. Shoot, the KKK was a Christian organization, right?
Yeah.
Still claims to be, still is, right? So everybody thinks they're doing what's best. So they might think America is evil, so they're getting rid of evil. This is how they justify it, right? We do the same to them. We think they're evil, especially after 9/11. All of a sudden, they're the enemy. You know, the whole religion is the enemy, not just the people that perpetuated this thing, but the whole religion.
And we
got to understand, when we get that program, it's a hard drive. It's really a hard program. And then we're going to defend it with everything until we realize that that's not who we really are. And in politics, it's so simple. If you use the example of politics, if one person is extreme right and one person is extreme left, they can't even have a conversation, even if they're real similar as far as their everyday life, right? Even if their core beliefs are kind of the same, if one is identifying extremely with this and one is identifying extremely with that, they can't even come together and have a conversation.
Right.
They don't even know each other.
Right. All right. And you see it with racism. You see it with we talked about our trauma is the same. The mechanisms are the same. The trigger points are different, right? Where I was born in poverty. I was abused pretty bad as a kid by my father. Death was a real possibility in my household. You know, my dad said, "If he kill you, he might." I mean, I snuck out my window at 8 or 9 because he was going to kill my mom. He broke into the house when she left him finally, and was going to kill her. He had a knife to her throat, and I snuck out my bathroom window and hit the cops. So there was a real threat of death in my house. If he said he was gonna, he smacked you in the head to show affection. So you didn't know what was what, which way was up. So my triggers, which I don't even recognize from time to time, I'm better at it now. I know when the visceral field has come up, it could be a smell, it could be whatever. So I have to know what that feels like when it happens. That's the only way I can ask myself the question, is this real? And then I can exit the emotion. So that's different than a black man in America or a black woman in America or even black men and black women experience trauma differently, right? The mechanisms are the same, but the experience that brings them to them is different, right? So we get so caught up in our own trauma that we don't ask other people the question, Do you feel the same way? Do you feel alienated? Do you feel like you got to look over your shoulder? I know what that feels like. I don't know what it feels like as a black man in America or a black woman, but I do know as a white man what it is to be impoverished and made fun of your entire life and be alienated. And so it's the what we feel, the visceral feel is the same. The trigger points are different. We don't ask people enough, well, how did you get there? I know what trauma feels like. I don't know how you got to yours, and I don't know. I can tell you how I got to mine. Those conversations don't happen. And if those conversations aren't happening, those key words, those trigger words, racism, white privilege, Republican, Democrat, American, all those words resonate in a different way, and they create the trauma mechanism, the defense mechanisms come up, and all your brain is trying to do is protect you from pain. So now you're defensive. And when you're defensive, you can't even get to the neocortex. So you can't have a conversation now. All the logic, all the goodwill that you learn in your life is inaccessible because you're stuck down here ready to go into fight or flight, right? So people aren't having the right conversations. They're not seeking to understand why somebody might feel pain over something, right? They're making scapegoats, because if they make a scapegoat, well, then they don't have to deal with theirs. But if you ask the person, you might have to take some responsibility in the way they feel, not overtly, not directly, but that, oh, I didn't see that. And in my not seeing that, maybe I caused you pain as well. And that's painful for us. You'd rather just blame and push it out there. And I think that's the major problem, is that's why insanity is so easy, doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same result, but expecting something different. It's so easy because it's comfortable, and you don't have to feel pain there. You can deny.
Well, I had a conversation, and life is about perspective. And I truly believe that everything that separates is not real. It's only real because the systems said it's real. There has to be an agreement. So there has to be an agreement with the oppressor and the oppressed in order for this to work.
Yes.
There has to be an agreement. So everything is about perception, right? So if I believe that a certain group of people are a certain way, I'm gonna look for that in that group, and it's gonna become real. I'm gonna find the evidence that supports my belief.
Mm-hmm.
So if I think, oh, whatever, we just say all Christians, just for example, if I believe all Christians are a certain way, I can find that in all Christians. I can find the evidence to support my belief.
Yes.
Right? So beliefs are false. Beliefs are just your perception of something. If you want to find something to make it true, you can make it true. It doesn't matter what it is. But beyond the belief, beyond all our beliefs, is the ultimate truth, that we all come from one source and everything else is just made up. We got to understand that these systems put in place are all made up, and no one benefits from them. Even if you think you're at the top of the you're at the top of the food chain and someone else is at the bottom, the food chain is the food chain. It's all together. You cannot contain suffering. If one group suffers, everybody suffers, either directly or indirectly, right? This is what happens. People don't understand this. So when you look at a group of people and you go, oh, that's them, I ain't worried about them. Oh, it's going to touch you too, because everything is one thing. Just look at this whole universe as a small little cell or an atom or something. That's us. It's one thing. We believe it's other things, but it's not. And that's why true love, real love, agape love, transcends all religion, all race, all political party. And you will see it when there's an event, right? Like a disaster where everybody comes together and starts helping each other without that small thoughts about, oh, are they this, or are they that? No, they just jump in because that real love takes over, and there's no questions asked. You just do it.
I was just thinking about that the other day. Everybody wants to, people who rubberneck in traffic, right? When there's an accident, they're easy targets for people. Oh, what are you doing? You're holding up traffic, whatever, and we think it's stupid, right? Why would you even bother with that, even though we do it? People come together in tragedies or things like that, and I thought about it. I'm like, well, people, the main thing people want in this existence, whether they admit it or not, is they want to feel connected. They don't want to feel alienated. They want to know that because our true self is oneness, right? The non-dual, that's the true self. So in this human experience where we have these human bodies that separate us, we feel separate. People alienate each other. Nobody wants to feel that way. So in those moments where you see people rubbernecking an accident and they're all looking, or people will come up to an accident and start talking about it, or a tragedy happens and now that's what everybody's talking about, the tragedy. Well, it's easy to agree that that outcome sucked, right? And you can point a finger at whoever caused it or whatever, and you can come together in those moments. It's not the healthiest way, but people come together and they feel connected by this tragedy because they know it's wrong. You don't take any risk by telling somebody that accident was bad, or that kid who shot up that school, that's a horrible tragedy. You know basically how they're going to respond to that, right? You know. So it's safe for you to go in there and not feel alienated and having your opinion. And I think it's a very human thing to do. And if we look at human beings at their core, even if somebody would say, oh, I do everything myself, I don't need anybody, you're going to find that person having that conversation that connects them to somebody, right? Like, even if it's negative, and negative's the easy go-to. Complaining, bitching about stuff, blaming, like, that's why people do it so much, because it's their, Gabor Mate will say, well, in addition, it's easy to define the consequences, right? We can label those all day. It's not going to do anything for the addict because they know what the consequences are. He says, well, we don't ask enough is what does that do for you? In that moment, what does that do for you, that thing? Well, you feel this false sense of connection, or you don't care that you're not connected, right? It numbs that. So when it comes to tragedies, when very few people come together and actually provide a solution. They come together in the bitch. They don't really try to find a solution. They just bitch about it and they move on. Oh, I'm going to pray for you. They move on. Pray for the guns. Move on. You know what I mean? Very rarely do we come together and solve things.
Oh, no, I'm saying the people directly involved, right?
Oh, no, I know what you're saying.
Directly involved. Like, if something happens at a school, there's this love takes over and everybody's helping each other. They're not asking them questions. They're trying to save each other. They're trying to do whatever it takes to help somebody. Where
until the ego kicks back in,
and until it's all said and done, and then people start to go back to their normal self, right? So what I'm saying is the thing that connects us, say the ball of light is our creator, and we're all different extensions of that ball of light. We got to understand that. So that's what really connects us. We don't need something like a tragedy to connect us. If we feel like we are connected already, but we have to be able to see that.
Well, and that's how how the universe or God shows us that we're connected, because we gravitate so easily to the negative. So if there's these tragedies, you get to see in these little moments, no, that your neighbor that you were calling names and were blaming because they didn't cut the lawn, who became your best friend in that moment when you were trying to save the neighborhood, that's you. That's the true you.
Yes.
So I had to learn for myself when I would have these emotional flashbacks, and I would come to the end of them. And a lot of times I'd use alcohol because it would black me out. And it was the only drug that could black me out to where I don't have to think anymore, and I could just let the ego run wild. When I would finally snap out of it, and it would be like that, snap. There would be nothing, no legal trouble, no nothing that made me do it, other than there was this point where God, spirit, oneness, source, whatever came and crept back into me, and my ego was dissipated. So this is what happens in tragedies too. So I had this brief moment to where my ego means nothing. My separate self is irrelevant in this moment, and all I have is this ability. All I have is this commune with my higher self, right? And in those 3 days after one of those breakdowns, it was the most poignant moments in my life, because I was writing poetry and I was really looking into me and what can I do to be better and service oriented. And then that 3 days would pass and my ego would start to come back in. Oh, I got to fix this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And all of my energy was pointed outward. And then I would, lo and behold, I'd return to the same pattern eventually. I'd have another flashback and there I was. So it happens in tragedies too, where you're right, we're connected in those moments, and we realize that we're all together in this for this brief period of time. Then time passes and we return to we got to get back to work, right? My wife is saying this,
my neighbor's saying this,
and then the ego takes back over. Oh shit, now you hear the feedback? Man, I gotta fix this.
Yeah, get your life together, man.
I know. Causing problems over here. Better? Is it better now? Yeah, shit. See, so what happens is, so people know, because we're running 2 feeds, I got a mic on my phone, and you can only hear me on live. And people can only hear us on my mic that's going to Facebook Live. I'm trying to make them work. So my life is jacked up over here.
Well, you sound, I mean, it sounds good now. I don't know what you got going on over there.
I don't know. My life.
So I'm going to backtrack a bit when I was talking about, you know, you get your program created and then you live most of your life defending that program, right? No matter what, you got all this truth in you, right? You don't even understand that your name is not even your name. So somebody gave you your name. You don't even understand that part, right? At least I didn't, right? Someone gave me everything. Gave me my diet, gave me my belief system, gave me everything. And then I was like, okay, this is me. This is me, and this is where I fit into society. And these are my beliefs about certain groups of people. And I'm gonna defend these beliefs no matter what. And none of it was me. Like none of it was me. None of it, not even the name. None of it was me. And the only thing that was the part of me that I needed to take care of was the trauma that was passed down in me. And once you take care of that part, heal from the trauma, then things start to change for you. And I think we have a lot of unhealed people, a lot of people in pain. And that's why you drink, and that's why you do drugs, and that's why you have addictions, because it's just a trauma response.
Right.
Like deal with whatever you're dealing with, whatever's down in there. Something ain't right. You know something ain't right, but you don't know what to do to fix it. And the truth about it is you're not broken. We got to get rid of everything that's not us, and then we show up.
I love that. Hold on, I gotta get your mic back on.
You're stuck on IG, so I think we froze up a little bit. There we go.
Ah, damn mic. So, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I ain't never gonna be able to fix this.
Does it sound really bad over where you're at? I mean, I hear the feedback, but it's not.
Yeah, let me turn the mic this way. Maybe it's the mic.
Hello, everybody on IG. We're just talking about all the BS that's going on and all the separation and the division. And we got to come together on this thing.
Gotcha.
These superficial disagreements, we got to understand that we are all one team. And that's the only way we're going to be able to do this thing. If we realize we're all one team, that's the only way this is going to work.
It's the only way, and I don't know how much insanity has to continue to happen until we realize that all we do is. So a lot of people have a problem with Donald Trump. I personally didn't like most of the things about him, you know what I mean? But I understood that he was a hurt little kid, right? I understood that he was narcissistic, and a lot of people want to throw that word around, like PTSD, like alcoholism. They throw it around in pop culture as if it's nothing. And they use it as a scapegoat. No, that's a serious mental condition. That's a hurt person that just wants to be loved, right? They didn't get love as a kid, and you saw it in him. Like, if you understand mental illness and people's drive towards oneness, whether they want to say that's what they're doing or not, they just want connection. He blew around with the wind because, well, this person likes me, so I'm going to do what they want. This person likes me, I'm going to do what they want. Oh, they're attacking me. They hate me. Fuck them, right? You know what I mean? And you saw it. It was very clear. And I'm not justifying his actions or who he is. He's a product of his environment. And for us to call him anything other than that, all we're doing is feeding the fire, because when we call him names, we're justifying and validating all the shit he's got playing through his loop pattern on a daily basis. We've just given him all the firepower he needs to think that they're wrong, I'm right, protect myself because they're attacking me. And that goes for anybody on the face of the planet who wrongs you. They probably didn't intentionally wrong you. And even if they did, it comes from another place. Like I love in the 4 agreements, and you said it too, don't take anything personal. You know what I mean? It's 99% of the time, it really has very little to do with you personally. I wasn't mad at my cat. You know what I mean? That strong reaction to that cat, doing what a cat would do, either playing with the bottle or trying to get some water, because he can't talk to me and say, hey, dickhead, the kids, they didn't put water in my bowl, do something. Because he can't do that, I reacted. And when you think about it, it had nothing to do with that. I'm going through shit right now to where I don't know how to handle the things that are coming at me with this movement, right? It seems like I'm the guy who's got to carry it. I don't know if it goes anywhere, but there's a lot of risk in just putting it out there. Right. So, and there's a lot of opposition. And me personally, deep down, I don't know how I'm going to deal with that, because I'm still flawed. It nowhere near what I used to be, but I'm rising to this point where I need to be compassionate, almost like Jesus in my dealings with people. And I don't trust myself. And in that moment, I'm taking that shit out on that cat. And I have to go back and be able to define it.
That is the goal, right? To see people as Jesus seeing people, to see the God in everyone, to see the oneness between all people, and everybody deserves the same love. Everybody is the same love. And when we see people in a negative way, it's a reflection of ourselves. I don't think people understand that. Anytime you're judging another person, there's something inside of you that is identifying with that, whatever you're judging. There's something inside of you that you need to take care of. Yeah. And I don't ever look at anybody I'm serious, in a negative way anymore. I try to understand them. I try to have empathy for them. I try to have compassion for them, because I know if you're in a very bad place in your life, and a lot of times, a lot of people out here are really mentally ill. Like they're really dealing with some real heavy mental things that they got them acting a certain way. So why would we put our judgment on top of that? Everything is energy.
They weren't blessed enough to have to evaluate themselves, right? I feel like I got lucky in dealing with PTSD in the way that I did, and the fact that alcohol became a means of quashing that in the moment. Because of those things, I was able to get amongst other people that had basically beaten their egos into submission, and just out of sheer survivalism, they said, I have to find a different way. Now, somebody who binge watches Netflix is not going to have the same consequences like daily. They to the point where they ignore their wives, they ignore their kids. There's something going on in their life. But if they binge watch Netflix and pay their bills, they're not going to get called to task, really, because they aren't hurting anybody outside of them. And as long as they're doing what society says is what they should be, it's acceptable, right? So I feel really sorry for people who, for the life of them, they can't see outside of the technology that they're addicted to, because it's what everybody does. And they can't figure out why they can't have meaningful relationships. Well, because you don't love yourself. You haven't figured out how yet. And in this society, we're not taught to love ourselves. We're taught to blame ourselves. And the only way I was able to find true compassion for others was to find it for me first. I couldn't forgive myself for my missteps. And then I would always compare to other missteps and say, well, they're not as bad as that misstep. I never killed anybody. But it's the same thing. You know what I mean? It's still a lack of compassion. In that moment with that cat, I had to go back to, there's something you're not feeling compassionate about yourself with. You haven't let something go yet. And if you haven't let that go, how are you going to talk to other people about being compassionate? You better fix that. You know what I mean? And it's exactly what you said. It's about going back into yourself and finding where the usually the lack of compassion for you, finding where that lies and why it lies there, and being brutally honest with yourself in the moment. And then, because then you're not a victim anymore, right? Once you say, I'm responsible for this, then you can fix it. But as long as you're not taking responsibility, you're a victim. You can't do anything. You're stuck. And we live in a state of victimhood and a state of lack and limitation. So it's hard to blame people who are stuck there, but at the same time, we ain't gonna get anywhere unless we do something together.
The goal is to let go of everything that's not you. And if you do that, then you're going to be living different. You're going to be thinking different. You're going to be moving different.
Yeah.
All the things that we need to heal from, all the trauma, that's not us. That's not us. That's not who we are. That's something we're dealing with.
Right. We got a special guest coming in. Amber Saltzman, Miss Cosmo Shine.
Oh, look at that, look at that. What's happening?
Me and Monk are running an experiment. He's got IG Live going, and I got, so I'm causing all the feedback. It's my fault.
Yeah,
that's good back into me.
It's always Vince's
I
fault.
have a responsibility.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm blaming him too.
And I can't catch a break. I need it. Tough luck. So we're talking, you know what we're talking about. We're talking about
I've heard some of it. Like off my phone.
yeah, so it started with me and him talking about how ironic and how crazy it is that we continue to do these insane things trying to get a different result. Killing in the name of God, fighting for peace, even that vax, anti-vax, everybody who's talking about it don't know shit about what they're talking about. You know what I mean? For the most part, they don't know. Can you hear me? Back on? Am I back on now?
Am I back on now?
See, I don't know how to fix
I don't know how to fix this.
it. He needs to talk
in there.
I think about it for a second. Yes.
We gonna work it out.
You need to mute yourself. You can't have any sound coming in. You're having sound coming into two microphones right now.
He can't hear me unless I'm on his mic though.
Let me see some. Go ahead and talk.
Can you hear me? No, you can't hear me.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
But see, then now I turn my volume up on my computer, and now I'm getting feedback in my.
Yeah. Can you? So it's the same
But
thing
if
here.
you mute yourself here.
No, it's sounding good now.
Is it?
Yeah.
But anyone who's watching on IG, can you comment? Can you still hear us?
Yeah. Can everybody hear us on IG? Can we get a thumbs up on IG?
Thumbs up for Monk and thumbs up for Vince.
Oh, well, let me get to mine.
Anybody hear me?
Well, I can't listen here. But there's more feedback. If you're listening at the same, you need to turn your volume down. That's what you do. Not
My volume's all the way down.
Okay, I got a thumbs up on my end for the
That's
IG.
good. I'm gonna kill this volume completely in settings, and then I'll be right back on yours.
This is what happens
When she's not here in the beginning.
when I try. Well, sometimes I have to plug into a Zoom call, for example, on the phone before I get to my laptop, and then I have to load it open. And terrible feedback if they're not careful.
Hey,
Be patient.
okay, I'm back.
Okay. Now you have to get back on IG because you're not
I'm
on.
gonna ask to join, huh?
Yeah. Be patient with us, y'all.
And this is for me. This is a crazy experimentation.
Why don't we hook you up and then put your phone in the Zoom for now?
Do what?
Hook you up on live and then, because you need to be on.
Yeah.
You need to feed this through to that.
Oh, so what do I do here?
Next time we'll go on StreamYard.
Did you find me on IG?
Yeah, I'm on here right now. I'm looking at you.
Request to join.
Where's that at?
Where?
I'm just on this. Oh. Okay, there it is.
Look at this guy.
I'd be dead without her. That's a request. Okay.
There we go.
All right.
All right.
There it is.
This. So I'm on. Oh wait. Good now. Is this good?
Yeah, well, I can hear you on both, but it's not. have.
Yeah, but sometimes it goes away, and I don't know how. I just can't tell if people can hear that. This is what we do. This is what I do.
Are we good now? I mean, you sound good right now. Can you hear
sound good to you sound good to me on the we'll just but she's right, StreamYard, I think we can do both at the same time, right? We can push out to both platforms.
Yeah.
So that's learning lesson for me. And
you know, the way I see it is whoever's on here is going to get whatever they need to get, regardless of the technical difficulties. The message is going to come across, and that's all that matters.
You know what's funny is it's just us experiencing the technical difficulties. Like nobody else out there can hear what we hear, the feedback. It's just bothering us, and I'm letting it disrupt from the conversation, and I shouldn't, because I can deal with that feedback for what it is that we're giving to people. I should be able to deal with that. That's the way I got to look at it.
So yeah, I don't know how what it was really doing over here as far as the IG live, but you know, the bottom line is for me, whatever I'm doing, if it doesn't reflect or feel like love, and I believe God is love, if it doesn't feel like that, then I know I'm out of alignment.
Yeah.
If it
what happens when you do have a visceral response to something? I remember one time we were on a podcast, and this kid was talking about blackface. Actually, kid, he's the same age as me, and he was talking about blackface. And remember, he was talking about dressing up for Halloween, and he said he dressed as Aretha Franklin or something like that. And I remember it bothered you in that moment. What do you do when something viscerally affects you?
Well, here's the thing. It's not so much that the actual act is bothersome. It's I get more bothered by people's state of conscious. Like, I think we should be better than we are right now.
That makes sense.
Right? We should be able to see things before we act unconsciously with something. And that's the part that and I've been there. I mean, yeah. I've sold cocaine to family members. You know what I'm saying? I've been there. That's a completely unconscious act. I've been there, so I understand. But at this point in time, there's so many things that are trying to get us to wake up and to be more conscious, and so much information out there right now. When I was born in the 60s, they didn't have the information they have out now. Like, you have access to a lot of information, right? That in some instances, you would have to travel across overseas to get information that we're able to access now, right? So I'm just thinking we should be evolving more.
As light beings, that's our job, right? When we get caught in those situations where, look, my visceral response is going to come first if I hear something that's poignant and I don't even know it all the time. I'm better at catching it in the moment and saying, I apologize, let me take a step back, but sometimes I don't. But as a light being, I agree with you. We should be more conscious, but the reality is most aren't. So if we are, now we have this heightened responsibility to, like you said, see people as Jesus did. Well, they're damaged. They like I was, and I'm no better. They're no better because I have information. It's now my job to expose them to that to the extent that they will be, and if they won't be, I can't fault them.
Let me tell you something. There's something, and we got to be careful with the words we use. You cannot be made in the image and likeness of God and be damaged. For one, you cannot be. You're not damaged. You might be misaligned. Right? You might be dealing with trauma that's still there, but we're never damaged, and we're never
broken, right?
We're never damaged. How can something so perfect be damaged or broken?
That's true. Yep.
It's how we're processing things that's off.
So to even view them as damaged it's counterproductive.
Yeah, we're not damaged. If we were damaged, we can never get our value back.
Right. We
can never transform into something that we're not. And if we're damaged, how can we do that?
Right.
Our point is letting go of what we're not and becoming who we are, body, mind, and spirit.
How do you communicate to somebody who is acting in a way that is not conducive to their higher self? How do you communicate that in the moment?
We can do? We don't even have to open our mouth. The best thing we can do for transformation is to make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. We bring that energy, we bring that love, we bring that light. And just like in Christianity, wherever Jesus went, people were, his energy was so on point. He didn't need to do anything, just the presence.
He just showed up.
And everybody knows that love or God is the highest vibration. So if we're walking around with that, it's going to cancel out, it's not one for one thing here, right? It's one for thousands of people. One person can make a change. One person can make a change in a whole big region just by the energy they bring. I see you over there tweaking off that sound.
I moved it in the way the mic caught it. Now I see what's going on now.
Okay.
The mic catches it and then I'm causing.
If we fully self-actualize, right? If we become that being we came here to become, we're making change no matter what, just by showing up, just by walking into a building, just by being present. So there's nothing that we really have to do. How many times has someone just walked up to you and just start telling you their life story? They're doing that because they feel something. See, look at you. Look at you.
StreamYard next time. Me and Monk are gonna StreamYard it.
It's okay,
Yeah, I
that's
don't know if you heard me. I don't know if you heard me.
a response.
Yeah, so being who we came here to be is creating the change. It's not so much about what we say or do, but usually what we say or do is gonna align with who we are at that moment, right? So if we're living a life of love, our actions are gonna reflect that. If we're not, a lot of judgment and blame and separation.
So it's kind of like when I was dealing with my cat, she got to witness it. And I had to turn to her. I said, that was too much, wasn't it? Yeah. Now, she could have pacified that in the moment and said, no, you're fine. The cat's not hurt, which I'm used to in life, enablers, right? She said, yeah, that was too much. And I was like, you know what I mean? You feel that little hit and you're like, yeah, shit, right. And I'm right. and it's hard to catch those things and then for the next moment without getting defeated in that poor me. She's blaming or he's blaming or the world's blaming, and I'm not a sheeple. You know what I mean? We were talking about it the other day. Like, it's crazy to watch. What's the question? What do you tell people when they start blaming the other? You say that there's somebody on the other side of this, just like you, but they think the other way, right? Like, so you'll hear people calling each other sheeple. And as people who have just chosen to transcend that and have looks at that, and I'm like, well, you're both doing the same shit. Both of you, you're doing the same. And as you're calling each other sheeple, you're stuck in your sheepleness and they're in their sheepleness, and you're both calling each other the thing you don't want to be.
Yeah, well, I like I said, I have conversations with all different types of people with all different types of beliefs, and they really try to make their point with me. And I'm just sitting there listening. I'm not one way or the other, but as soon as they're done, I go, there's someone that talked to me just like you're talking to me right now, but it was just the opposite of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And the next thing they'll say is, but I'm righter.
Yeah.
Both sides will say that though, but if one has to be truer, it's what I believe. They both say the exact same thing. And I'm like, and I tell both of them, I'm just like, this is the problem. This right here is the problem. I'm not saying you're the problem. I'm saying this is the problem. If you always have someone pushing in one direction, you're going to have the same force pushing back. This is the way the world is set up.
Yeah.
If you're using force, the same force is going to push back. If you're using power versus force, there's nothing that's going to push back on that. And that power is a higher self. It's not this low level stuff with this force going back and forth. And that's why the leaders of the old school, the ones that walked through here, the sages, Christ, all the people that used to run around in those circles, they all understood this. There's no one to fight except for yourself.
Creativity and destruction. Those are two sides of the same coin as well. And a lot of people who want to exist or do exist in light space and don't want to recognize that there is that duality, and then typically when we're in reaction, it's a destructive sentiment, being right or taking power over someone or something or an idea. Whereas to me, if I can put myself in a creative creative mindset or creative heart space, whatever I'm going to say or do, which may be nothing, is always going to contribute more to the situation for that person.
Yeah, being creative, that's a higher state of being. Like, you know, when people say they're intelligent because they got good grades in school.
Yeah.
That's not intelligence. That's just being able to look at something and put it back on paper. The person that created that book, they got that from a higher place. The person that gave you the information that you are now reading and spitting back out, before there was no information, they created information. So intelligence is not looking at something and putting it back on paper. It's creation. You're creating something from a higher place that no one has ever even experienced. That's why Tesla, Einstein, all these people, they were creative people. They weren't just spitting out the stuff they learned. And usually the people that spit out the stuff that they learn, that's where they stay. Right? I am so smart. I know so much, and they stay right there. They don't ever create anything.
I think based off what you guys were talking about before I even came in, but I overheard a little bit, I think it's an interesting time to think about destruction being one of the components of creation. And so maybe, this is just a maybe, so many of us who belong onto that destructive energy are really looking to become creative. We just don't know how.
Well, and I think that was back on the subject of Donald Trump, just because he's so relevant to right now. A lot of things he did was destructive, but like Mary Ann says, return to love. It's a cry for love, really, is what it is. And creativity, well, you can't love yourself any more than when you're creative. When you're truly creative and you have this moment of brilliance, these are the peak experiences, right? These are the things in life that we aspire to, these moments, just these little moments of brilliance to where you're in true creativity and flow. I always use the analogy. There's a difference between hopping out of a plane and being in free falling or flow, right? There's a complete difference. So a lot of times we view destruction, or which I would view as a fall, right? That's a fall. That's not a flow. Because if you're being pulled down a path of negativity through this magnetism, where flow, you have the ability to navigate, but you do it and flow with everything that is, not what you would like it to be. So creativity, you're not really striving to create something, right? When I do my best as a writer, it comes out of me. It just happens. I don't have to force it. I don't have to put this discipline on myself to, even though it helps, right? The discipline will help to get you there. But if you think the discipline itself and the intelligence, the superficial intelligence is what it is, you're wrong. This is put in place so that when that moment happens, you can grab it and you can put it out there. It's never that I intended to create anything great. It's that it happened and I was ready when it did.
You hit the nail right on the head. When you're ready to receive something, it's something that comes through you.
Right.
This is creation. It's already there. It just comes through you. So all the great minds back in the day, they were elevated to such a place where they can receive this information, where it can come through them. How do you come up with EMC squared? How do you come up with these things? How do you do that?
I mean, like Einstein, he envisioned traveling on a beam of light as a kid. What the fuck? How do you? Yeah.
He was tapped in. He was so connected already, and then he became more connected and opened himself up to receive this information. Everybody thought he was crazy. Crazy is just a lack of understanding. There's no such thing as crazy. I don't even care if someone is having a mental episode. It's still not crazy. So whatever they're experiencing is 100% real to them. We just don't understand what it is. We don't understand what it is. So since we can't name it, we got to call it crazy.
Oh, crazy.
Some of the most brilliant minds in this world that ever walked this planet was considered crazy.
And they said he was mentally retarded because he couldn't talk till he was 4, you know, and he was held back in school and called a slacker and whatever. And I mean, I can relate to some of that but yeah, I mean, he changed everything. His brilliance changed everything. Life that we know, the GPS, that flat earthers will say, you know, the earth is flat, but they follow GPS to get places. You know what I mean? Like, it's so and back on the subject of these strange things that we do, this insanity, where we're constantly working to separate ourselves from others, because they have different ideas. It only serves that destructive process that she's talking about. And when you stop for that accident, or when you come together in that tragedy, not in the moments where you're actually together, but in the moments where you start to blame and villainize that person who cut that person, yes, that's a real problem, right? But the problem isn't in that individual, it's in the consciousness that created the allowance for that within that individual, which we're a part of. And in our blame of that person, we've just exacerbated it, right? I might not like what Trump does. I don't like, it makes me feel really bad that somebody gets to the point of consciousness where they can justify that. My disdain or judgment of that is only going to allow for it to continue to happen, right? And it's a matter of, I teach my kids this, and I'm working hard to exhibit it because I'm not perfect. But I tell them, your only responsibility, I don't care about your grades, in that I don't want to see you being lazy, but you might not like that subject, so I don't care if you get to see. Doesn't matter to me. I'm not going to get hung up on that, but I don't want to see you being lazy. I don't want to see you bullying people. I don't want to see you lying. I teach them about playing the game with corporations and politics and all that. There's a certain point where a lie is not a lie, and I don't like to say that, but if I get pulled over for speeding or whatever, I'm the whole different thing. Don't even need to talk. But I teach them, your only responsibility while you're on this planet is to illuminate the space you occupy while you have the miracle of occupying it. And what does that mean? That means you're not in competition with anybody. But if you didn't brush your teeth the night before and you knew better, it's something as simple as that. It's a baby step. Take that baby step and do it the next night and know you did it. Pat yourself on the back for it and go to bed with clean teeth. You know what I mean? Illuminate the space you occupy. And that's, you said it. When Jesus went to, I got this bump on my tongue, this swollen taste bud. I keep talking with a lisp.
That's why.
I'm like, so Jesus walked into a space and people clamored around him. He didn't say, follow me. Like that. He didn't say, hey, he wasn't promoting it, saying, hey, be at this spot at noon and I'm going to talk to you. He just showed up and people came.
You know what's a trip, man? I was talking about religion today, specifically Christianity. And there's certain things in the book. First of all, there are books that were left out of the Bible to fit the narrative of what they wanted to happen at that time, right? And then the way it's set up now, so Jesus said, you can do all these things that I can do and even more, something like that. I'm paraphrasing it, but you've heard that before, right?
Yes.
How can you take that any other way? He is telling you that you can do everything that he has done and even more.
Straight from his mouth.
Make that, what is the meaning of that if it's not what it is? You see what I'm saying? And people are always giving away their power. There's a thing called collective consciousness. It's all one big bowl of soup, just like in the book I was talking about. We're just one big bowl of soup, all us together, one big bowl of soup, our consciousness. And what are you bringing? What kind of flavor are you bringing to that soup, right? It's all an individual thing into a collective thing. So anytime we judge somebody, anytime we match somebody's energy, we're creating twice as much of that energy that we don't want.
I want to show people this right here, the Nag Hammadi, all those books that were left out of the Bible. That's what he's talking about right here. This right here, it's from the Dead Sea Scrolls that were taken out of the caves in 1947, I believe. This right here, that's a lot of books. That's the Isaiah effect. That's where it really, where Jesus was a revolutionary, is where he told people, these things I do, you can do and more. Why are you worshiping me? He wept on Palm Sunday because he couldn't understand why you can do these. And when the government back then heard that, well, we got to kill this guy. We can't have people out there thinking they can do what he does. And these are the books for anybody who's interested. If you really want to know, the Nag Hammadi, it delves into Jesus as a revolutionary. Doesn't paint him that way, but if you read it, you're like, oh my God, he said that. Sorry.
And how amazing when he's talking about forgive them for they know not what they do. Forgive them. They're about to kill me right now, but they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's the attitude we need to have with everybody we disagree with. Whatever they're doing, they don't know that they're doing it. They don't know what they're doing. They are unconscious. And that's what the message I'm trying to get across to people. It's like, I don't care how they behave. They don't know. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing. It's not really them. And if we can backtrack to all our childhoods before we got introduced to all these things, everybody would just get along. There wouldn't be no division. It's taught. Division is taught, just like anything else. And then you look for that experience to back up what you believe. You look for it, you create it, you manifest these interactions with people because this is what you believe. So I'm gonna give you an example. So I had with police, I had a different type of relationship with police back in the day, right? And they pull me over a lot, they search me a lot, they put me in handcuffs a lot, they do all these things a lot. So my belief, even before that started happening, was different when it comes to the cops. So every time I'd see one, I would feel a certain way. And usually when I felt that way, they'd always be messing with me, right? And what I came to realize was the energy that I was putting off, the energy that I was giving off was creating the exact same scenario that I didn't want. So everything is energy. So when that cop gets behind me, all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, they're gonna pull me over. These, whatever, I start cussing them out on the inside, and next you know the lights come on and I'm pulled over. But I didn't realize I was creating these interactions. So now my interactions with police, I had some of the most amazing conversations with cops in the last few years, where I really tried to understand them and they really tried to understand me. And it's because the energy that I have towards them, it's not the same.
You're not fear-based.
No, I love them just like I love everybody else. And I want to more understand them. Even after all the George Floyd, I had a conversation with a cop after the George Floyd thing, and we were talking. And he broke down, he said, yes, cops have issues with looking the other way, and had a full-on like conversation. He said, I never even wanted to be a cop. It just ended up that way. And he was telling me all the stuff that happens with the police force. He probably shouldn't be telling me this.
Right.
But he's being honest with me, and we're having this conversation, and I'm talking about it's about love. And he's like, yeah, it is about love. We need to do better. Where before I could have probably, gave off some bad energy, and he would have, took my ID and ran my name. But at the end of the day, we gave each other a hug, and he walked one way, and I know he left changed, and I left changed as well, in a better way, in a more beautiful.
That couldn't have happened without you being the light in that moment.
We understood each other at that moment. We understood each other. And then when he went his way, I even gave him a book. I gave him one of the books. I gave him a book his way. I went my way, and it felt good. I mean, this was the only interaction I ever had with a police officer that felt like really good. Like we both walked away in a higher or heightened.
Change.
Yeah.
You both walk away change, because that opens up a neural pathway. You just sent me something today with Jordan Peterson talking about the only way we heal trauma is to invite those situations into our lives. Maybe not in the same way, but we have to, whatever fear was created in us, we have to invite those situations back into our lives so that we can live through them and realize that, oh, okay, because your ego is really just trying to protect you. That's all it's doing. It can't be villainized either, because it's trying to prevent pain from entering your psyche again. So it's protecting you. So when you do that with an officer where your experience has been bad and you're justified in having some fear or some hatred even, you're justified. When you break through that and say, I'm going to invite this person into my life who I've always been fearful of, and you have a moment like that, now you've opened up this neural pathway. You're closer to God, he's closer to God. Whatever God is to you, it doesn't have to be God, it can be universe, it can be source, whatever. Now, or just psychologically, that pathway is now broken down. I have a neural pathway open up that I never had before, and now I can experience life differently because I just invited a fearful experience back into my life and lived through it, and the end result was positive.
Yeah,
Extremely positive.
let me give you the backstory. So when I was sitting outside and he walked in, we made eye contact and it was a friendly exchange without words, right? So he walked into the coffee shop. I walked to my car and I told myself, I said, you know what, if he walks back, I didn't know where he's parked. I said, if he walks back past me, I'm stopping him. And that's what happened. He walked, I said, you know what, I love your energy. I just wanted to, talk to you for a minute. And we talked for about 30 minutes. And he left with understanding and I left with understanding. And that's the thing. When we don't have no understanding, we're going to stand really firm in our beliefs, in our past experiences. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. We take all our old bullshit and bring it into a new experience with a person. So say, for instance, if I have a problem, if we have an issue, me and my lady have an issue 2 years ago, and I bring that up to the present day, I have not worked through this issue.
Right.
I'm bringing something that doesn't exist. I'm bringing a situation where we both probably have grown so much, but I'm bringing that old her, that old experience now to the present, and I'm creating another issue. What
happens? She gets defensive, right? And she should.
What would happen? No, listen to this. What would happen if every experience was a new experience? This is where we need to get to. Not what happened yesterday, because every day we're different on every single level. We're different people, physically, mentally, spiritually. So what if I woke up and met you as a brand new person every single day and left the old stuff that I had a problem with in yesterday?
That's powerful.
How would your relationship grow?
It can only grow.
How beautiful would that be? Because every time something happens, oh, that's what you always do. Oh, that doesn't even exist anymore.
You could only grow because there's nothing else beyond that.
There's nothing else beyond that. You are brand new. This is for everybody listening. You are brand new every single day in every single way. And this is why a lot of times you can't have old relationships when you used to do different things, because people are still going to identify you with, are still going to look at you and go, that's that guy.
Yeah.
And it's not. What's going to happen is if you just allow that to go, how it's going to go, the new people that come in are going to match your energy, and then they're going to know you for who you are now, not for who you used to be.
When Jesus went back to Nazareth, he couldn't heal all of a sudden because they saw him as a carpenter, right? Like that. There's that story where he wasn't able to heal people because they didn't believe he could. And this is a reciprocal universe, right? So if I'm treating her, and say we had a problem a year ago that we don't have today, and then something brings up in me that old incident, and I tell her she's exactly what she was then, she's going to get defensive. I'm going to get defensive. There's no growth that's allowable in that because I've just stagnated everything that we work towards to get on the other side of it. So what you just said was beautiful. If you wake up every day and realize that I'm new and I'm refreshed, and yeah, there's the past and I can learn from that, but that's not who I am today, then you can grow and so can they. But if you wake up and you're consistently not, like, and this is where compassion comes in, and you're consistently living in a state of blame of yourself even, well, you've stagnated any chance you have of moving forward to the next. You victimize yourself, and I that's so poignant, and that's why your book is so good, because you simplify, right? You simplify. What if you woke up every day and you knew and accepted that you were new and refreshed, that this is a new day. All I have in front of me is opportunity. That's it, nothing else. Because it's true. You may have some shit to deal with, but it's an opportunity to deal with this in a new way than you did the day before. So powerful.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, right? And that's why I say in relationships, and I'm not a relationship counselor by any means. I got my own stuff going on. But if you don't grow together, you're gonna grow apart. Yeah. Period.
Yeah. All the time is like for us, we're in a relationship that it don't even seem right still. And if I was still stuck in my old thinking, I would say it's too good to be true. I got to look out for this. You know what I mean? Because we just grow. That's all. When we first met, we threw all our bullshit on the table, but it was past bullshit. And we said, this is the worst of us. we're trying to create the best of us. If we're not going to do that, then we'll grow apart. And we made that commitment early on that, and now we just gravitate towards growth. And it can be uncomfortable, you know what I mean? Because you're dealing with new parts of yourself in the presence of another. But when you get on the other side of that, and this is what I invite the possibility that we could ruin each other in those moments, ruin the relationship, because at the end of the day, our growth is more important than the relationship itself. Kind of like, you know, Martin Luther King. Well, he knew he was going to die, right? And he talked about it the day before, but he knew what he was given to the relationship he had with this planet was far more important than his life itself. So for us, if we don't give that to ourselves in the relationship, well, the relationship can never thrive. So very hard to do in real time, because you know there's certain death, right? And at some point, Martin Luther King knew, Christ knew, I'm going to die, but I got to continue forward because what I give is far more important than what I receive in this moment. And you got to do that in relationships too. You got to put yourself at risk of being nailed to that cross.
Well, everything is energy based. You know that, right? So you have a certain energy aspect to you. Both of you guys is energy, right? So whether you are, if you really have an elevated or you're very dense, it's gonna, the law of attraction is gonna, at one point, the law of attraction brings everybody together. So you're basically on the same wavelength when it comes to your energy. But then what happens a lot of times is one person does the healing work and they start to elevate their frequency, and the other person stays. And this is what happens when people say we have nothing in common anymore. Deet, 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 deet. That's what it sounds like. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Oh, shit.
There you go. I can hear you now.
All right.
Oh, I was just gonna say with our story, and like you said, putting all of our bullshit on the table to start with us, was also the first time that we both said trust and love are inextricable, and the only way I'm willing to move forward with you or with anyone is if trust is established as a foundation initially, because trust is a tenet of love and not of fear. Right?
Well,
fear and trust don't go together.
when you have to choose to trust, like we talked about with reckless abandon. Like, I am going to trust recklessly at the risk of being hurt. I'm going to trust whoever because I can't afford fear. I can't half-ass this shit. So if I'm going to grow, I'm going to trust, and I'm going to do it at the risk of being hurt. Because at the end of the day, I'll be all right. You know, I'm not going to allow somebody too much leverage to hurt me, and that's not going to be out of fear. It's just I'm going to be mindful of the fact that, okay, maybe somebody doesn't have the best intentions, but they're not going to make me not trust them. You know what I mean? Because that's them. That's me letting, usually a fear-based mechanism, put myself in prison. And if they do have ulterior motives, I'll figure it out eventually, but I'm not going to let them imprison me either. I'm going to choose to trust and even be hurt in a situation to where at least I can walk out of it with my head held high and that's neural pathways open up. I lived through that. And that's something that we established, is that, well, trust, you can say it's earned, but who the hell is going to earn that in this life, right? Not many people. And how much time do you have? You got to go in and say, like Christ did, I love you. I love you. And I don't know, you might hurt me, right? In fact, you probably will. But what I'm saying is true. You know, that's a whole different form of existence that we're talking about. And there's only so many people that are going to achieve that or have achieved it so far, right? Like, and I'm, as flawed as we may be, we're trying to move into that light to where you might get me, but I'm not going to give you a line of bullshit. What I'm saying is true. I trust and I love you. You know, it's difficult.
The beautiful thing is you guys are in this point already, and you're moving upward, not downward. So it's only going to get, not saying you won't have problems, but it's only going to get better.
Well, one of the things that we also started out with, aside from that sense of putting everything out on the table, was we already came from having done work to get to a point where we loved ourselves.
That was important.
When you love yourself,
You have to do that.
if you don't love yourself, and you're looking for someone else to do that for you, you won't win in that situation. Because first of all, that's a gap that no one can fill, or a space that no one can fill for you, and you can't fully put yourself fully out there into that light, loving, trusting space if you don't trust yourself.
Oh no, you can. It just won't work out well for you. You can do it. It just won't work out well for you.
Yeah.
Right? So you hit it right on the head. You have to love yourself. You can't properly love anybody else without that.
So when we see somebody that's out there floundering and their negative actions are directed towards us, we have to, as light beings, as people that have transcended to a certain point, we have to, and it's difficult. We got to find a way in that moment, maybe not in that moment, but somewhere. How can we get them to love themselves without us being caught up in how they made us feel, right? Our emotion.
I'm trying to tell you, it's just holding that energy, holding that vibration. You don't need to do anything, right?
Just don't react, right?
Don't match their energy.
Right.
Look at everybody as a 2-year-old that's potty trained and just pooped their pants, right? You that's what understanding is. You understand that 2-year-old is in the process of learning and they're not there yet. So am I gonna beat this little 2-year-old because he pooped in his pants? I'm gonna say, oh man, he's just not there yet. He still has more work to do. He's still really like an infant as far as his development goes. Why should I be mad at this person? Would you get mad at a baby for making a mistake? No, you wouldn't. Well, in consciousness, a lot of us are babies still. We don't understand this thing, right? So if you just hold that space and you hold that love and that understanding and just say, hey, they are where they are. It's whatever they're doing. It's nothing to do with, it doesn't have to do with me. Just like you wouldn't blame yourself for that little baby pooping in a diaper. It has nothing to do with me. It's where they are. So all I can do is love them, set boundaries, of course. You don't have to accept any type of behavior, but set boundaries and just love them from a distance and just, there's no reason to react. When you match their energy, it's over. I don't care if you say something or not. If you just match their energy, then both of y'all get dirty.
Well, that's what Tesla talks about, right? If you want to truly understand the universe, you need to start thinking of things in terms of energy, right? Frequency, because that's all it is. At the end of the day, here's what we know for a fact. Even if the scientific method is your God, right? Is that we're all energy. And that's not negatable at this point. So that also leads back to whatever you call source, there is source. We came from something. You want to call it a big bang? Great. That's a big bang. But what that meant is there's a singularity where we're this great big ball of density it has continued to expand outward. Call it what you want, but we all came from the same source, and we can find that relatability in people all the time, no matter how different. When you sit and have a conversation with that police officer, there's an understanding that exists. And what we start to understand when we interact with people, when we choose to interact with people, especially people that might have different ideas than us, we start to realize that, well, they're not so different. They might have different ideas and a different upbringing, but what they really want is to be connected. And in that moment with that person, I found connection and it felt fucking good. You know what I mean? Like and we need to do these things. Like Peterson was saying in this thing she sent me today, we need to continue to invite those uncomfortable, seemingly uncomfortable experiences into our life and then live through them so that we can feel what it's like to be on the other side of that. Because it doesn't kill you. It makes you stronger. You know what I mean?
Right. So we all come from the same source, which we do. We're just different individuals' expressions of that source. So, and it's so simple to wrap your mind around that. But then we have all these things that are put in place in the society that says it's not true. And then we start to look for the differences instead of looking for the similarities, right? And even when it comes to that, I'm gonna go here, okay? I'm gonna go here. When it comes to other beings that can suffer, we choose to look at them as different we choose to look at them as their life doesn't matter. When they feel the exact same senses, the exact same emotions, and they have to feel the exact same pain that we feel.
Exactly.
Right? They love their children. They have relationships. They're individuals.
When somebody hurts them, they hurt the same way.
Right. So that's another part of it where a lot of people don't even want to hear that. Oh, we're so much more advanced animals. Well, are we? I don't think animals kill just to kill like we do. Who's more advanced? I think they do whatever they do just to survive. Of course, consciously, we're different, but physically, we feel the exact same thing. People are using pig hearts for humans now, okay? So how is it okay for us to treat, this is like separation right here. I'm trying to break it down in the animal kingdom. How is it okay to treat a dog one way and then treat a pig another? How is that okay? If we feel that one deserves to be treated a certain way, why is it okay to treat another animal
Really not.
a different way? If we think doing it to a dog is wrong, how can we think doing it to a pig, chicken, or cow is right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the same thing as thinking one race is good and one race is bad, or one political party is good and one is bad, even though we feel the same thing and we go through the same things? Isn't that the same? Why do we go to jail for killing a dog, and if we kill a pig, we just have a barbecue? Why is that? Why is it okay to inflict pain on one animal and not on the other? Why is it okay to inflict pain on one human and not another? See, the rabbit hole goes deep. Looking at your own life and what you're accepting or allowing. Look, I know for a fact that I couldn't go into a slaughterhouse and cut a cow's throat that was hooked up in one of them things to keep their head from moving and watch them bleed out. I couldn't do that, even when I used to eat meat. Why is that? Because the suffering is real, the pain is real, and you don't want to experience that. You see what I'm saying? But we will turn the blind eye and partake of that whole process anyways. Just we're not doing it. It's like hiring a hitman.
Yeah, you're contributing.
Yeah, you're contributing. Without the demand, there wouldn't be the supply, and without the supply, they wouldn't be getting treated this way. You see what I'm saying?
Goes back to that conscious interactions that
I'm trying to tell you. Before I started my meditation practice, before I started getting into this, what was taking me beyond this program, I started to see everything was one thing, and I started to see the other animals, not just dogs. Other animals had the same ability to feel and to love and to experience life as a sentient being. So I wasn't even looking for it.
I'm trying to fix it.
I see you trying.
I hear you. I know they hear you.
So yeah, so I wasn't even out. Look, and when it comes to this whole vegan thing, I wasn't looking for it. I started meditating, and one day someone said, "Are you a vegetarian?" And for some reason, something came through, and I said, "Yes, I am." I didn't know why, but I had to do some research on that. And you know what it said then? You want to say it? You want to tell you? It said that I didn't want to do harm to any other beings that had the ability to feel like we do. And it blew my mind, because I don't want to do harm. Even as a meat eater, I didn't want to do harm. I didn't want to do harm, but I didn't know. I was so disconnected that I didn't even believe I was doing harm. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we got some spirits creeping in that you were saying some shit that they can hear it. It's interfering with us, but everybody else, I know.
We sound good now. As soon as I did that, it said.
It's I don't know what happened. I don't know if but what you just said was so poignant that maybe there was some energy that crept in here that tried to block this, because that's some stuff that's what it comes down to is how can I what did I do in this experience that led to, maybe, if you don't like that, I gotta stop saying Donald Trump because he's so polarizing, but I don't like the way that person infringed on me. Well, how did you contribute to that consciousness? And that's what you're saying is is you may not have killed that cow. You may not have, you may not be the person responsible for the mass marketing of meat as a whole. You may not be that, but in your demand for that product, which a lot of it's very innocent because we're raised that way, right? And nobody can, but once you become conscious of it, now you got to really ask yourself that question. And that's tough because I'll probably eat meat tonight and I'm going to think about it, right? And there was a time where when my kids watched What the Health, we went vegan. And we maintained for about a year a vegetarian, the vegan. So, but they saw it immediately, and then they're seeing it. I had to check myself, you know, and that's if you're in life when you're you really need to be in a constant state of not blame but awareness. What really am I doing?
So listen to this. Like I said, suffering cannot be contained, and I don't care if it's animal suffering. So look at what it's doing to us. Look what it's doing to the planet. Look at what it's doing to the resources that we need to survive. Look at the diseases that's causing. Bird flu, mad cow, all these different diseases. It's all from factory farming. So we're allowing this to happen.
Yeah,
It's coming back around and creating disease for us and heating up the planet. Suffering, I don't care what kind of suffering it is, it cannot be contained. So as long as we allow suffering to go unchecked, we will suffer.
I love that. That's when I took the kids to Auschwitz, and we're towards the end of our time anyway, and I think this is telling us that you guys need to wrap it up. And we're going to come back to it. I mean, I can come back to this with you a million times over. So we'll do StreamYard next time so we can hit both platforms. But what you just said, and that's what when I took my kids to Auschwitz, they wanted to go somewhere nice for the summer, and I wanted to too, but I also wanted to educate them. So we did Legoland, and in Denmark right after Auschwitz, right? So I wanted to give them something light after that. Well, when we were there, I said, this isn't to scare you, but I want you to know what happens when human suffering goes unattended. When you turn a blind eye to the fact that people are suffering, and even animals, when you turn a blind eye to it, you allow for this to happen. So it's not that you need to be a superhero or that you can't, but you do need to be aware when people are suffering. And when you're aware that others are suffering, you might act differently towards that suffering. And that's what you maybe to wrap them in compassion. Maybe it's not you to wrap them in compassion, but maybe you don't have to bash them. You know what I mean? And not contribute to the suffering. And it's a very Christ-like, Martin Luther King-like way to be.
I'm saying if you could really just every animal that you eat, if you could picture yourself killing that animal, plucking that animal, cleaning that animal, and then picture that, you're gonna feel different. I'm gonna go right back to Tesla when we were talking about frequency, right? I know the thing is tripping, but everything is energy, correct?
Mhm.
So what is the energy in that piece of meat that you're putting in your body and allowing it to become merged with your energy? What kind of energy is in that meat? What kind of fear? What kind of suffering? What the antibiotics? Everything from the energetic imprint on that meat to the stuff they feed it, to the stuff they give it to keep it alive long enough to kill it, is becoming part of you. What kind of energy are you putting in your body? Do you really want whatever that animal went through inside of you? It's all energy.
Have you ever read a book called The Little Soul in the Sun?
I can't hear.
Oh, wait.
Okay, go ahead.
Have you ever read a book called The Little Soul in the Sun? It's a fable by Neil Donald Walsh. Maybe we can send it to you.
Yeah, I know of him because he has conversations with God, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like everything is energy. It's like, what are we allowing to become us? Without food, we die. So what is keeping us alive?
I saw you with Michael Beckwith, right? And I know Neil Donald Walsh is part of that School of Unity school. I'm on the board at Renaissance Unity in Michigan. Mary Ann Williamson comes from there, and Wayne Dyer, Les Brown. you know, and Michael Beckwith is unity. He's agape out in LA, but he's unity. Everything all the concepts you speak of, if you're open and willing, I should see if we can get. We're still virtual. We haven't gone back to in person yet, but it'd be nice to have you on there to speak about your book and you know, a lot of the concepts you're speaking of. That's all unity thinking, right? They call it new thought. It's not. It's ancient, right? But
what is so ancient? I'm listening to the stuff now that was made in like the early 1900s, and they're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a universal truth behind all of it, right? It's never going to change. You can't. The truth doesn't change. The only thing that's not true are these programs, and that's what I'm trying to get people to see. You think it's all your beliefs. It's all this is me. I'm this way. No, you're not. If you were really aligned with who you are, you would walk around loving people. That's who you are, right? When you look at that little baby and that little baby smiles at you, that feeling you get when that soul recognizes your soul without language, they don't know language yet. That's God.
That's the truth.
That's who you are.
Yeah, that's it. Well, hey, Monk, as always, it's been amazing. You know, I think the feedback is just us, so I don't think anybody else experienced that. I'm just gonna hope, even if they did, though, I have no problem coming back and talking again. So
whenever you're ready, I'm ready to talk about it too, because we got to share this love. We got to share it with everybody, and we cannot stop doing this. And some truths might not make you rub you the right way, but we need to hear these things. Truths might not rub me the right way, make me check myself, maybe look at my own life, but it needs to be discussed, because when you put it away, it's gonna, whatever is suppressed, what did Jung say? Whatever you resist persists.
Yeah, whatever you resist persists.
So we got to clean house, and we got to
thoughts of mind or thoughts of mind or whatever. It's another one of those things. You're what you think is what you are. Wayne Dyer, change your thoughts, change your life. So, all right, well, yeah. I mean, we could go on all night.
Wait, hold on. I think I got the Dwyer quote, the Wayne Dwyer, the Wayne Dyer quote you're talking about. You change the way you look at things, and things you look at change.
Things you look at change. Yep.
Perception. It's all about perception.
Yep.
How you looking at it?
That, and where's that? I just tried to give that book to my son, Wayne Dyer's, where he goes through the top to change, and he breaks it all down. Change your thoughts, change your. There it is, right here. Another book I want to show to people. It's a simple reading that, like, it's only one book of the Tao Te Ching that he goes through. He breaks it down into English terms, but change your thoughts, change your life is the name of the book. And it came from the quote that you just said. This is where that derived from. Like I said, we could talk all night, but you're right. We got to keep coming back, and we got to keep, the more I talk to you, because you speak the same language, and I need to hear it reiterated back to me, because I'll forget. You know, she speaks the language also. We all speak it in a different way from our own life experience, but we listen. And when we listen, it helps us grow. Like, I hear you speak, now I can grow from this, because you'll catch me in thoughts that I have that I'm not, when you said you got to be careful of your language. I'm like, he's right. I do have to be careful of my language, because we're not broken. He's not broken. She's not broken. They're not broken. They're just disconnected right now. You know, how do we, you don't connect a person by telling them, by even if you're not saying they're broken, if you acknowledge when they say that they're broken, you help break them, right? That's the truth. So it's very valuable to speak to people of like consciousness who have different experiences, because they can catch you in the moment and say, no, check that, listen to that, hear what you just said. That's not going to work out there, you know. So it's a beautiful experience. Every time I talk to you, I grow. We do it all the time, every day, and sometimes it gets uncomfortable, and you might get that little grimace on your face, like me. But then you come back and you're like, you got me in the best possible way. You got me, you know. So same here. It's all love and I see you grow professionally. Like from the last time we spoke, you have a different light about you. You've illuminated a little bit further, and that's a beautiful thing to see.
Oh man, I take that as a compliment.
I mean, it's the truth. Like last time we spoke, you know, you were illuminating, and now there's like a different light about you. I mean, and even that thing behind you, that the chakra, it's illuminated. I don't know if you got different lighting on it, but it's amazing to see people grow and to see this evolution in you in such a short period of time. It's a beautiful thing. But
we gotta wake up and love each other the best we can, and that's what we're here to do, man. If anybody else tells you different, they're lying.
We're lying. Yep. You hear that? Don't lie to each other. So this is Monk Coleman. We'll be back with more. Cop this book. I'm telling you right now. Your kid can read it. They might not understand what he's saying exactly, but there'll be a point where these words are going to resonate more so than the Bible, because it's the same thing. It's just here it is without the parables. Here it's a beautiful book. Make sure you get it. 80 pages, right? 88 pages.
Yeah, like 84 pages or something like that.
So we'll come back and we'll talk more about it. Do you have you got a special thing going on where you're going to be getting autographed books out?
Oh yeah. The website is we're getting the website together, and we're going to start selling. It's on Amazon now, but we're going to start selling it through the website.
Okay.
From the website, you know, I'm gonna sign them and send them.
And when you have that, you'll give me the link and I can put it up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right, man. Well, it was beautiful talking to you tonight, and we'll do this more often now. I think we've been called to do it. So
yeah, for sure. I appreciate you having me on.
And thank you, Amber. Well, and I'm on yours too, but I'm messing it up. But hey, Amber, thank you for stepping in.
Yeah.
She always brings light with her too.
Very, very powerful things. Yes, you did.
Yep. So, all right, man. Well, have a good night, everybody. This is the Human Condition Insta Live. I'm sorry if I jacked it up. Have a good night, man.
Some blessings.
Blessings, and I love you, man. I'll call you later on everything we're talking about.
Sounds good.
All right. Have a good night.
Peace.
Bye.